Welcome to Let's Face the Facts, the rewatch podcast for the classic sitcom, The Facts of Life. Join us each week as we synopsize, analyze, criticize, and ultimately idolize the show. And now, here's your host of Let's Face the Facts, the wonderful David Almeida.
Thank you, Matthew Arter. Welcome back to another show. Thank you for downloading and pressing play. This week, Matthew and I are joined by actor, improviser, writer Steve Purnick. He's been on the show before, and this week's episode is kind of a return to the old school, very special episodes, because it deals with the Holocaust. Yay! Haha! Never not funny in a sitcom. Anyway, Matthew and I wanted to include Steve because he is Jewish, and we certainly thought that he would have a few things to say and contribute to the discussion, and he certainly did. Now, if you recall from last time, Steve has the mind of a comedy writer. It never stops working. Being with him is like having a little piece of the Catskills from the late 50s, early 60s right in the room with you. It is just, it's amazing how sharp and witty he is. I always enjoy the time I spend with him. So let's get to it. This week we watched season 7, episode 18, called Concentration, which had an original air date of February 8th, 1986. I think we're ready to jump on in. Let's face the facts with Steve Purnick. Good morning, Steve Purnick.
Good morning, David Almeida.
Well, good morning, Matthew. We're recording early because Mr. Purnick has a busy schedule as a local hustling artist and an active parent who still has time to bake his own bread.
Oh, isn't that something? Challah. Yom Kippur begins tonight, by the way. That's the day we're recording. So I'm going to have to stuff my face today because I can't eat starting at sundown for 24 hours.
Okay, I was just going to say, explain what Yom Kippur is. That
Yom
New Year?
Kippur is
Rosh Hashanah is New Year, right?
Yeah, Rosh Hashanah just happened. This is what's called the Day of Atonement. It's sort of like if you know anything about confessional, it's like a year's worth of confessional. Very solemn. I'm a piece of poo, and I won't eat to show that I need to deny myself pleasure today. So that's
the beauty of
what it is. It's a fasting holiday.
That's the beauty of the Jews. They get it over in 24 hours. It's like, I'm just going to confess today. I'm terrible today. And then we're good.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just glad you're here, Steve, because there's nothing I like more than waking up at the butt crack of dawn and talking about the Holocaust.
There it is. Thank
Never
you.
not
it was
funny.
Worth waiting for. Totally worth waiting for.
Honestly,
yes.
A problematic yet lovely episode. I have a very wide pendulum swing of things I love and things that I hate about this episode. But all in the end, it has to be a love episode because Nehemiah Persoff, come on.
Nehemiah.
Mm-hmm. Well, why don't
last time it was Natalie's Yiddish grandmother.
Yes.
Right.
It was, yeah. That was a couple years ago, several seasons ago,
right.
But we had the titan of the Yiddish theater, Molly Picon, and now this time we get Nehemiah Persoff. So let's start with the nuts and bolts stuff here. We have this episode called Concentration. That is not related to the fun classic game show that we all watch on the Buzzer channel. No, we learned this is Concentration as in camp. And season 7, episode 18, and the original air date was February 8th of 1986. It was written by Martha Williamson. Martha would go on to write 8 episodes total. This is her first foray into the facts of life. And she will be with this show till the end of the series, writing episodes all the way until Big Apple Blues, which is one of the last episodes of season 9, one of the attempted backdoor pilots to get Natalie into New York City with Richard Grieco and David Spade. And she also worked on, after this, TV movie and then a TV series and then a series of TV movies called Signed, Sealed, Delivered that were on the Hallmark movie channel. And I guess it's about postal workers trying to get the mail to people. I don't
in a small town when they're used to delivering mail in a big town, and now they realize how wonderful it is to live in a town with 8 people in it, and how much easier it is to deliver the mail.
Turn their back on the big city hustle and bustle.
Yeah.
I'm gonna stay here and live in Shitsville. But she would go on to be the executive producer and head writer of Touched by an Angel for the entire run of that series, which was, I think, 9 years, 211 episodes. She was also executive producer for a series called Promised Land. That was a 70-episode series. It starred Gerald McCraney. This is after Simon and Simon and after Major Dad. I think I heard of it, Promised Land. Celeste Holm was in it.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah. And it's like, I thought she was dead.
A real young cast, her and Gerald McCraney, for Christ's sake.
We're skewing to the millennials. And this episode was directed by John Boab, same as before, same director. Yeah, there are only 2 episodes this season coming up that John Boab did not direct. That would be episode 21, The Candidate, and episode 22, Big Time Charlie. So I don't know what's up with that. And if you look at the production order, that is the 20th and 23rd episode recorded for the season. So it's not like he did a Charlotte Rae and pieced out a little early before the season was over. So I don't quite know what that's all about.
Steve, are you all Jewed up?
I am. I have just watched an episode of The Facts of Life. I'll be honest with you, I don't think I've ever seen an episode this deep into the series. I didn't, it's not a series I ever really hung with and know incredibly well, but I know stuff from the first few seasons. The Molly Ringwald season wasn't that exciting. And so everybody's old. Everybody's a little too old for, are they supposed to still be in high school? I don't even know where we are at this point.
No, we are definitely not in high school anymore.
No, we're an AARP at this point.
Yeah.
Well, in fairness, one of them is indeed still in high school, Steve.
Yes.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
So, Matthew, I think this means that we need to discuss with Steve
Oh, Jesus.
the ages of the girls.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome.
And who's this new boy? And who's the baby? I don't know anybody.
I know. You're so right. It is really where we are now is, as you see, Mrs. Garrett, Charlotte Rae is on her way out of the series. She's trying to lessen her role. And at this point, she was in most of the episodes of season 7, but here is where we get the perfect quick cameo, obviously taped at another time earlier, and just, 3 lines in and out, collect the paycheck. But yeah, Blair and Joe are juniors in college at this point. So they are both 21 years old. Natalie is she would be a freshman in college, but she's not going to school. She's taking some time off. But Natalie is 18 and Tootie is a senior in high school. She is 16. And Andy is the 12-year-old boy who lives nearby. He applied for a job kind of as a joke when we're saying they needed a man to help around, to help with lugging and man stuff. And this little boy comes in and he ends up helping out their business. And they're just like, he's so freaking adorable. And he is the son.
And you know what? He had good comic timing. I'm not going to lie. I thought the kid was actually pretty damn good. I don't know
who he is?
No.
He is Mackenzie Aston. That's the son of John Aston and Patty Duke.
Oh my God. Sean Aston's brother then.
Yes, absolutely. Wow. And yet now we know where he gets the comic timing from and why we have been arguing that we don't have George Clooney, sadly, in this episode, but we're like, our favorite things in season 7 of The Facts of Life are Mackenzie Aston and George Clooney.
There you go. Well, yeah, he's pedigree, and it kind of showed. He really had good comic timing. It was like, nice delivery, boy.
Yep. Yeah. Nope. We love him. He consistently delivers absolutely on this. So Steve, this is the time when we like to put our guest on the spot and ask if you would please provide a 1 to 2 sentence synopsis of the entire show, something like, the brief description you might read in a TV guide. And now with Matthew as my co-host, we do have the added layer of, if your short description runs too long, you will be judged and critiqued instantaneously.
No, think TV guide, Steve. Think TV guide. This is
On the way to accept an award, Blair gets stuck in an elevator and has a surprising encounter with a Holocaust survivor.
There it is. There it is. Brava.
Nope. Don't need a close-up box for that shit. Good work.
Very good.
So are we ready to get into this? And we will talk more about the Holocaust-y stuff when we get to that point in the show. But thank you for doing this, Steve, because Matthew and I wanted to be sure we had someone to call us out if we started saying insensitive Gentile things.
You need cover. You need some Jewy cover. So that's what I'm here for.
Yes.
So you don't get called out. You don't get all those nasty letters from your 7 listeners.
How dare you?
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to oversell.
No, don't worry. Our 7 listeners are all actually anti-Semites. So
that's perfect then. So it works out.
Woo, okay. Off to a great start, kids. All right.
So we kid because we love.
Yes. And so to answer your last question, you didn't catch that the baby is Blair's sister? You didn't catch on? Because on Halloween, Blair's mother showed up with the surprise news that she is pregnant at 52. And she wasn't sure
42. She was 42.
No.
Yes, David.
Oh my God, that's right.
Like a stretch, David. 52 seems like a real stretch.
Yeah, say that to Adrienne Barbeau.
Oh my God! Now we've got a new segment called Matthew's Ages of the Girls. Now, oh God, I've become you, David.
You have.
Don't age our dear Fudge.
No, not Fudge, Marge. Her name is Marge Doucet, the actress that plays Blair's mother. Anyway, yes, at the ripe young age of 42, Blair's mother turns up pregnant and isn't sure if she wants to have the baby, and Blair convinces her to do it. So that was October.
That sounds like an emotionally charged episode.
Oh, it was very special. Very special, yeah. And then our very special Christmas episode was the baby being born. 2 months after her mother announced that she was pregnant without a baby bump in sight.
Listen, when you're 42, you better do it fast.
Yeah. Well, she's rich. She paid the expedited fast pass gestation thing. And then now here we are, February 8th, and it's, not even Valentine's Day. And here we have a 6-month-old child. You're the parent here, Steve. How old did you say that baby is?
I'd say 6 months, not a bad guess. It certainly doesn't seem like a newborn or infant anymore. I mean, it's got a little heft, maybe even older than 6 months. Yeah.
If this baby was 7 weeks by the calendar from when she was a 7-week-old baby, 7 weeks, they're just a little crying, pissing, peeing, pooping, eating machine. There's nothing happening. They're just a little shrimp sitting around where you're like, okay, would you get to be 3 or 4 months old so that this can get interesting now?
This kid's a stalker. You know that word, stalker?
Stalker? No. Ooh, this is a Jewish thing. Talk to us, Steve. What is a stalker?
It's a big bruiser, stalker.
Oh, okay.
In Get Smart, there was like a henchman who they called stalker. It was like sometimes you don't even know. Oh, that was a Yiddish thing that I didn't even know about. So yeah, this kid's beefy.
With like a stocky person. Where you say a person is stocky.
Yeah, or big enough even as a stalker.
Interesting. So let's start getting into the microscopic dissection. What we've got going on here is the first scene is at the house. We have Blair and the others. Don't know who's minding the store. The over our head store, which you didn't even get to see, Steve, the Color Explosion Spencer's gift store that they run these days adjacent to the house. Mm-hmm. But Blair is trying to remember a speech she's about to give. And she's also simultaneously taking care of her 7-week-old sister. They don't say how old she is, so we'll just assume the baby is the age that the baby is. Because
Mom did her delivery job and got out of Dodge. Mom's nowhere to be found now.
Yeah, she went off to, where did she go to?
Bolivia.
Bolivia, that's right. Mother was, this baby has been dominating my life for 6 fucking months. Mama needs a break. So true rich white lady style. She's like, I'm off. It's a wonder she didn't ship the baby off to military school, really and truly. So
she'd be in the infantry.
There it is. Sheboygan.
The work here is done.
I am not going to start off political, but this first scene is I was throwing things at the TV, David. Don't even get me started. That Blair is like, oh, she deserved a few days off. Moms don't get days off, Blair.
Nope.
And that is why maybe she didn't want to have this kid.
You made your mother have a fucking baby.
And now you said, I'll be there for you, Mom. And you're about to haul this kid off on Mrs. Garrett.
Yeah.
Screw you, Blair.
Oh,
that is all I'm saying.
Wow.
Screw you. I never thought I'd say those words, but I was very offended by Blair.
How many seasons are we in now?
We're in season 7. It will
season
end
7
after 9.
And after season 7, Matthew was still surprised that Blair is selfish. I don't know. You should have caught on to that, like at the 7th line of the pilot.
I love Blair, and I will defend her till the day I die. But I was not a fan of the beginning of this episode for several reasons, and that being one of them. Like, you're creating the story. You don't have to create that the baby is a pain in the ass. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
I only had 3 hours sleep, and she won't stop crying. She's a fucking baby. Jesus.
Yeah. And this is why a 42-year-old woman didn't want one. This is why, Blair. And you're 21 and you're fucking worn out. Imagine how your 42-year-old mom feels. She had to go to Bolivia to get away from this bastard.
This opening scene of this episode had such a ripple effect on the way women approached motherhood for the centuries.
Yeah. And I think it also would have a ripple effect on the way people invent things and are credited and honored for doing such.
Right. Because she's getting an award for inventing contoured top sheets.
Yeah, she's getting an award. The whole thing is, where is Mrs. Garrett? Because Mrs. Garrett was supposed to be there to look after this fucking kid so that Blair could go into the city of New York to receive a plaque from the League of Small Independent Business Persons.
Super plausible. Very plausible.
So, even better. Joe, who is unimpressed with this and a little bit pissy about it. Joe's whole thing about it is, she comes up with this stupid idea. She writes a ridiculous paper, and this league comes out of nowhere to give her a plaque. So she's getting a plaque for an idea invention. It's contoured top sheets, but nobody is buying the idea. Nobody is producing it or selling. It's just, great idea. Have a plaque. What in the holy fuckdom of fucks is happening here is what I'd like to know.
And when has Blair ever mentioned, you know what, I'm really interested in inventing stuff. And
yeah,
you know what, it bothers me, contoured sheets. So let me work on that. Like suddenly she's an entrepreneur inventor. That I make her get an award for selling a piece of art.
Yeah.
Something that has something to do with her character.
You read my brain. Because later she does say to the elevator man, to Sam, she's like, yep, well, getting this award's kind of a thing. It's me showing that I've accomplished something on my own. It proves I'm becoming independent. And now I'm going to start working my way up the ladder to corporate success. And it's like, wait, didn't Steve, I'm sorry, Steve, to catch you up here.
Good.
We're talking stuff that you aren't familiar with, but we've had this thing of Blair being sort of fast-tracked by her corporate dad and by her rich mom that, well, she's clearly going to be an executive. She's going to be involved in the business world and work on Wall Street or Madison Avenue or something. And Blair really has more creative and artistic aspirations. And we were
she's actually pushed back in other episodes of not wanting this.
Exactly. And we thought she was on the path to exploring that, and then it just gets abandoned and not talked about. And now we've got this going on here. And can we talk about, gentlemen, would you please, Steve, you're our guest. I'll let you speak first. I say contour top sheets.
Yeah.
Describe that product for me, please, as you
I
imagine.
have no idea what that is. I have no idea what that is. I understand what a fitted sheet is. I understand what a flat top sheet is. Contoured top sheets. I mean, I don't even have a visual picture. I don't know what does that mean? Is it do you go for a fitting? Do you wear it like pants? What the hell is a contoured top sheet? But the thing is, in hearing it, I just didn't care. I just that's the truth of it. All right, fine. Contoured top sheets, whatever the hell you want to tell me.
Yeah. And by the end of the episode, honestly, as I said, the pendulum swing of what I hate and what I love. The hate is at the beginning, the love is at the end. So we end it on a love note. And that's good because by the time we're done with this episode, you're like, you know what? It really doesn't fucking matter. They just had to come up with something ridiculous to get us in this situation so that we could watch this performance. And, it's, I almost forgive them. Almost.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving down the line. Matthew, what do you imagine a contour top sheet is?
I assumed it was something that was like, you know how the top sheets are always just a big flat sheet. I assumed it was something like that was sewn together at the ends to fit over the edge of the bed. Like your top sheet then like was fitted to your bed. You know what I mean? Like at the bottom. That's what I assumed. But I was more ready to punch Tootie in the face when she was making those faces at that baby from behind. And the director wasn't like, how about we put you in the baby's face? If you're all going to be in a baby's face, there's nothing more calming to a child than three people going, ah! in their face. Yeah. Stop crying, please. Fuck off, Tootie. You're not even in the... You know how I feel about Tootie. You know how I feel about Tootie.
Yeah, Matthew has big problems with the character of Tootie this season and all the others. I'm with you, Matthew. I feel like it would either be like a fitted sheet that is only fitted at the bottom, but loose flowing at the top, or it would have, like your hospital corners. It would have a pre-sewn in hospital corner that makes it fit over the bottom, but is loose on the top. And again, I'm like, so where do your feet go? If it's not made of jersey stretchy material, how is it not too tight over your feet and your ankles? And
gentlemen, I am 100% sure that already we have put more thought into and discussion into contoured top sheets than anybody involved in this production, including the writer.
Definitely the writer's room. Yeah. But you know what, guys? Blair is not the only inventor in the family. No. Joe is pissy about it because Joe is actually kind of jealous because Joe reveals to us that she has a journal full of really useful inventions.
We've known that from many previous episodes, right? I mean, constantly you're talking about Joe and her inventions.
Sure. You want to believe that, Steve? Go right ahead. It's not true. But Joe talks about things like a magnetic toothpaste cap. At the award ceremony, they talk about electric shoe trees that preheat your shoes. And Joe's like, what a stupid idea. Electric shoe trees. Mine had batteries. And then the other one mentioned, the holy trifecta comedy of threes, is pet-proof medicine caps. And Joe's in the bathroom and you hear shouted from the bathroom, I had that idea first. And
the musical pacifier you put in the baby's mouth so you don't hear it crying. But babies don't cry when they have pacifiers in their mouth.
Oh, wacky. Wacky. Oh, Joe, that's why you're a failure. So this is all set up to get them to, and the last thing is when Mrs. Garrett does call in and they do speak to her briefly, she says that she and Beverly Ann are in the Winnebago. They're on their way home. Like Beverly Ann is apparently going to be dropping her off. Beverly Ann doesn't show up to live there for several more weeks. So we knew Mrs. Garrett was leaving the season. She was kind of going to be going away to be with Beverly Ann to comfort her as her marriage has just recently broken up and it was a bad situation. So now suddenly she and Beverly Ann are traveling together. Beverly Ann, by the way, is Cloris Leachman, who will be joining the cast next season when Charlotte Rae departs.
We don't know that yet.
Yeah, we didn't see her in this episode.
Yeah, we don't know that yet.
In this episode. No.
No.
We got no Beverly Ann. Just mention of a Beverly Ann, but no seeing it. Mention of a Winnebago, but no seeing it. How quickly can we do this? Stand here by a payphone. We'll shoot the shot. God, you're out in 5 minutes.
Yep, you're in Jersey.
And let's nail the payphone to a tree. Let's not even give her a fucking phone booth, for Christ's sake. We've already relegated her to fucking Suzanne Summers' Three's Company drama level of performance by having a phone call for that last 30 seconds. It took her an hour to maybe film, for Christ's sake. But
she's supposed to be lost in New Jersey, and as someone who grew up in New Jersey, it's just filled with trees and payphones attached to them.
But with Mrs. Garrett unable to be there to babysit, Blair is like, well, the baby typically doesn't cry when Blair holds her. That we've already established this sisterly connection. So she's like, she's just going to scream if I leave her here with you guys. So get the pram and we're going to head on out and all going together. I'm bringing this baby with me to this awards banquet to receive this plaque. Because God knows, lack of childcare is not a reason to miss this. This is too goddamn important.
And can I say at this moment too, there's a setup, but your speech is coming right at the time of the baby's feeding. Well, I hope that's not a problem. ... And is it ever paid off? Is it ever paid off?
No.
I mean, it never even comes up. Like, why did they tee that up? It was just so weird that we hear this and then nothing.
Yeah. And similarly,
Andy does bring up the fact they do hear the baby crying in the elevator and they're like, oh, it's time for feeding. And they're like, where's the bottle? And Andy goes, I've got the bottle out here. But still not worth the setup, not worth the joke.
No payoff.
But my question for you, Steve, as the only person with a child in here, when they say, like, is that a thing for babies? I don't know anything about children. I hated myself until I was about 22, and then I'm still kind of iffy. But when they're like, oh, she has to eat at 7:00, is that like 7:02 won't work, like, for a kid? You know what I mean? Like when your baby is,
I can only speak to my one kid. That wasn't our experience. My experience was he was hungry when he was hungry, and they tell you. And especially in infancy, they cry. They let you know, what is it? Are you wet? Are you hungry? We'll figure out what the crying's about, and you take care of it at that moment.
Okay, because I've just never understood. I didn't know if that was actually a thing where it's like exactly at 7 p.m. she goes off like an alarm clock. Like, 7:02. She can't eat at 7:02, for Christ's sake. This is the dire straits we're in right now.
Yeah,
kids don't live by the clock. They live by what their body tells them when it tells them.
Yeah. And this doesn't sound like 1980s parenting. I could see a parent nowadays, a contemporary parent being, no, my little precious little Amber Regina, she has to eat at 7 and it has to be on the dot because at 7:04 is when we have our appointment with our postnatal astrologer, and then a baby yoga class happens at 11:15. So, the 1980s, we were still in the parenting was one step away from child abandonment, really. In those days, even for rich people. Let's get real. So we then move on to the hotel, the lobby of the hotel where this award is being presented. Very beautiful. It's lovely. It's called the Palace Hotel, which is weird because there really is a Palace Hotel in New York City on Madison Avenue. And It was a series of old little houses from the 1880s that they connected and built a skyscraper adjacent to and connected it. And that opened in 1980. It was a fairly recent thing in New York City in this 1986 setting. But they still call it the Palace Hotel. And it's supposed to be big and ornate with columns, and you see the gilding and 2 old school style fancy elevators. And Andy's reading the pamphlet saying, wow, this is one of the greatest European style hotels, one of the oldest in New York, is exemplifying the 19th century architecture, and it's being demolished.
Yes, it was.
Oh, progress. And
Yeah.
it's not untrue, not untrue. Not as bad as LA. In LA, it's like, is that building older than 10 years? Raise it. Tear it down.
Yeah.
But
and it's such an old building that the elevators still have an elevator operator who's got a little fold up chair. Yeah.
Which is actually kind of precious.
Yeah.
Really. So an old woman comes by to admire the baby, and Blair's like, touch her and die. And you get the old woman, the hilarity of the old woman reacting to being told to go fuck herself.
And maybe not the best threat to give a woman when you're about to get stuck in an elevator with a Holocaust survivor. Like maybe, maybe it could have been like, please ixnay on the Achingte or something, but it didn't have to be touch her and die. Oh, Jesus.
But it was certainly a way to exemplify how Blair is at the end of her rope. Yeah. She is like, oh, looking after a baby, and a speech that I clearly can't read off of a piece of paper or a card. I have to have it memorized. Oh, sitcoms.
She became Paul Lind when you did her. I have to have it memorized.
A little bit. Yep, I'm not apologizing. So one funny thing about this actress who plays the elderly woman is how she is credited. Her name is Georgia Schmidt. She has 48 credits in a 24-year career, character actress. Looks like she started late, like in her late 50s. After this, she would do 3 episodes of Highway to Heaven. Then apparently she would retire until her passing in 1997 at the age of 92. But the only reason I bring her up is if you look at her IMDb, literally, the character she plays, elderly woman, granny, little old lady, old woman, grandma. It's like, okay, we see the she knew her lane, she knew her groove and stuck to it, and good on her.
Yeah, in business and in life, she was on the highway to heaven, I think, at that point.
And we're not talking the Michael Landon show. So then the elevator doors open up and we get to meet Sam, the older gentleman who is the elevator operator.
And you love him the minute he is on screen. The doors open and you're going up. And I was like, oh, I love him already.
Sam.
Wonderful.
Sam is played by the amazing character actor Nehemiah Persoff. This man, I don't think we've ever had a guest actor on The Facts of Life where their credits exceed 200. He has 206 credits in a 55-year career. And I will not be talking about him in the past tense because he is still alive. He's 102 years old.
Damn.
I don't think he's still working, but damn. Still with us.
He plays a Holocaust survivor, and he's actually a Facts of Life survivor. So that's
he survived.
Amazing.
He survived the bad writing in the early half of this show to go on and do this. But he is one of those where he does not have a series. He's got some memorable movie roles. There's no career defining series or role or anything other than, I would argue, the 2 biggest ones to my generation are he's the voice of Papa Mousekewitz in the American Tail animated movies. And homosexuals will instantaneously recognize him from playing the part of Yentl's father in Barbra Streisand's Yentl.
Yeah, there you go. That's fairly iconic. But I mean, even if you don't know all of his roles, he's one of those guys who's just instantly recognizable.
You're like, I've seen him in everything.
I know I've seen this guy 100 times. Yeah.
Yes.
Or 206.
Yeah. And he has that thing that I love. I call it the Bernie Coppell career, where he has a lot of series like Gunsmoke, Marcus Welby, McCloud, Fantasy Island, Barney Miller, where he's on it multiple times and playing different characters.
Right.
I love that. That's like Bernie Coppell on Bewitched, where the true master character actor is the one who makes multiple appearances on a show in different parts. And I love that. That is a career. If I had lived a different life where I aspired to be a Hollywood film TV actor, that is the career I would dream of and wish for.
This year, slowly on Peacock, I've been going through Columbo episodes. My plan is to watch all the, and I'm only on season 3, but in season 1, season 2, and now season 3, Robert Culp has been the murderer and 3 different murderers. So, so it's that kind of thing. Like, it's so weird how they just keep appearing. You know, hey, we like that guy. Let's bring him back and have him kill somebody.
Yeah.
Hilarious.
Sure. We
That's because shows like that were often produced or involved people from like old school Hollywood, like Murder, She Wrote had all these. It's like, oh, where's Janet Leigh? Oh, yeah, I know, you know, we can get her into this. And I love
former film studio stars who are now stuck doing television or whatever.
Yeah.
Fun.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
so
Nehemiah Persoff, we meet him just briefly because Blair can't get on the elevator. The baby just made a big dookie, apparently, and everybody has to go upstairs while she cleans up the poops.
Mm-hmm. So then he comes back down, he gets her, and while it's just Blair and Bailey, the baby's name is Bailey, and him in the elevator, and of course, the elevator gets stuck. It's like, wacky sitcom premise.
That poor old elevator that he has named over the years, Bessie.
Named it Bessie. Yes.
Yeah.
And there's a little tiny bit cut from syndication. If anyone listening watched the Daily Motion version, they cut the bit where it's like, maybe I should sound the alarm. So he opens the door, press button, alarm will sound. And he presses it, nothing happens.
In case of emergency, sound the alarm. He presses it, nothing happens. I guess this isn't an emergency.
Yeah. Yes. Good. And then he calls on the phone, the emergency phone, a woman named Marge. So he's like, oh, it's stuck again. This happens. And then he asks her to call Harry. Apparently, Harry is the maintenance guy who would be coming and fixing this. So then we keep cutting back and forth to the others outside the banquet room, wondering where Blair is. Oh, no, she's going to miss her speech. And then Tootie, I'm sure much to Matthew's delight, Tootie goes into actress mode and is like, I'll go on for her. And Matthew's shaking his head, an emphatic no.
No.
Yes. So as we are in the elevator, the long and short of the rest of the episode is, because it's a little warm in the elevator, Blair loosens the bow on her blouse and her collar. He rolls up his sleeves, and that's where you see the number tattooed on his arm. And
let me tell you, this is the moment that the episode becomes watchable, becomes actually fairly good television. She acts it beautifully. It's presented and directed beautifully. It turns on a dime at that point that, oh, this is suddenly about something real. And have you ever met somebody with an arm tattoo, a Holocaust survivor?
I have not
seen that live. Well, I have many over the years. Growing up in the New York metro area, and then also I worked in the Catskills in my very late teens and early 20s. During the sort of the death throes of the Jewish Catskills, I worked at a little place called the Vegetarian Hotel, which is where I first saw them on a fairly regular basis. It's at least 6 or 7. And I also worked at Grossinger's Resort, which is a better known resort in its final years. And it was not uncommon. And boy, you do instantly feel extraordinary reverence when you see someone and you there's an immediate understanding that this person has been through something, you know, and to see them at a resort and enjoying themselves and still smiling is kind of wonderful and extraordinary. There's a wonderful documentary out too about an old sort of Catskills Jewish bungalow colony that all of these that it was populated by Holocaust survivors. They all kind of found each other and then would summer up there together and just have this community of understanding where they all kind of got each other and on a level in a way that nobody else could. So anyway, this moment in the elevator, I think was like, all of a sudden it's okay. And I'm leaning in and this is television now. This is really good. Yeah.
I literally have 0 notes that I wrote down about the rest of the episode because it was so sobering and it's overwhelming. And I may become emotional through the rest of this because it's just so overwhelming. And he is so good at what he's doing. And he's so perfect in his deliveries and his storytelling, and his perseverance speaks so like you said, Steve, you can tell this man has been through it. And I mean it's unbelievable.
He rings it true. He absolutely rings it true. You believe him.
I was really watching this thinking and I don't think that Emmy Award existed back then, but the guest star one, the guest star.
Oh, it did. And I looked it up and I was like, who in the fuck would have gotten nominated over this performance? And it's funny you bring it up. Here it is.
Who was it?
Well, the deal is it was just, I don't know if it's changed right now in this Emmy iteration. There's just guest performer in a comedy and guest performer in a drama, and it's mixed as far as male and female. So there are 5 nominations. So this would be in a comedy series. So the one who won it was Roscoe Lee Brown for an episode of The Cosby Show, episode called The Card Game.
I met Roscoe Lee Brown a couple of times when I was living in LA. He was a barfly. And that's where there were a couple of bars over in Burbank near Gary Marshall's Falcon Theater that we used to go to after shows. But Roscoe Lee Brown was always there and he was always tanked. Wow. He liked his booze.
Wow.
There you go. I apologize to anyone from the Roscoe Lee Brown family, but that man drunk.
Oh, okay. We've had stories of other celebrities too. But as we continue down the list, it's Earl Hyman, Danny Kaye, Clarice Taylor, and Stevie Wonder, all from The Cosby Show. 5 nominees, all of them are guest spots on The Cosby Show.
Wasn't The Cosby Show Danny Kaye's final appearance? He played the dentist.
Correct, yeah. And I believe it was. Well, he did not win that year. It was Roscoe Lee Brown. And I believe of all of these, of those 5 nominees, I think Danny Kaye is the only white person. All the rest of them are African-American. Anyway, I'm sure all of these performances were lovely, but there is no question the performance that Mr. Persoff gives here is every bit as good and every bit as nominatable as any award-winning performance we have seen on television. Just saying that. So I agree with you, Matthew, to suddenly have like Blair as there as us, as this is a thing I've heard about. This is a thing I've seen on television referred to. And let's get real. This show even kind of skirts the issue as far as, that symbolizes, Blair says, I've heard about, concentration camps, but I've never met anyone. And she says, you survived. And he says, I was lucky. And there's not talk of what he survived or what was going on there. That was probably a little bit too much, even for the primetime hour. But
it almost didn't need to be. I mean, it's unspeakable almost. What
You do learn that he lost his entire family.
Yes.
Yes.
You do learn that. So that's profound. But other than that, no, they don't get into the nasty nuts and bolts of what life in a concentration camp would be.
No. And I did write it down as though I might speak it, but you know what? I'm not going to tell his story here because I want, if you're listening to this and you have not watched the episode, you need to watch it. And I'm getting emotional now. Wow.
What's so interesting about this? It's a sitcom. It's supposed to be a comedy show.
Yeah.
And they are shit with the comedy on this. They're awful. Comedy sucks. There's almost not a joke that lands. And then it turns and they do a real and serious dramatic turn that 100% works. So it just felt so backwards. It felt like this is on its head.
That's the Norman Lear influence, where we couldn't do that in sitcoms before Norman Lear, and he's one of the developers of this show. But he then goes on to tell a story not about the concentration camp, but a story that involves his relationship with his brother, and basically kind of gives Blair a little bit of a reminder of whatever this plaque means, whatever your aspirations are, don't forget this baby, that this is your sister.
Yeah.
And it's beautifully done. And before we go on, I wanted to ask you, Steve. Now, Steve, you told us in the last show that you were raised by Bronx Jews. You grew up in New York and New Jersey, and that three of your four grandparents were Russian immigrants. Did they see anything? Yeah. What was their involvement?
And my father's grandmother was born here, was the first child of her family to be born here. She was the first generation in her family. And of course, she grew up in a home where Yiddish was the first language and English was the second language or whatever. So there was a lot of that. What was your question? I'm sorry, go on.
My question is, how did the Holocaust touch your family directly, if at all?
Yeah, it did. My maternal grandmother had, I think, 3 siblings that were lost. And certainly all of that generation, the generation above my parents, knew people who were lost, had known people who were lost. And I would hear about them, but it was so interesting. The Jewish immigrant experience for those generations was largely about putting the bad behind and becoming Americans and assimilating. So all of the Yiddish that was spoken was generally not passed down. It was sort of, we'll use it when we don't want the kids to know what we're talking about. It could be the secret language, but we want them to learn English and we want them to be part of this community. Because when we were sort of separate, the Jewish community was this separate thing in Germany and separate thing in Austria and in Poland and in Russia. Separate meant different, meant not accepted, meant persecuted. So we don't want that here. We want assimilate. We want to be part. And so it was sort of, we didn't talk a lot about that, the persecution, and that it wasn't for the kids and the grandkids. We don't want them to know this. We want them to know the better. So I was very aware. We certainly got schooling and in Hebrew school and different things, and my parents were certainly talked about it. I got a little fascinated in my teens, and it felt like all of the novels I were reading were like Nazi related novels, like The Boys from Brazil and the Odessa File and the Marathon Man and all of these things that was sort of it was present day but Nazi. So I'm certainly wickedly aware, but wasn't regularly talked about, I guess that's all I'm saying.
I became interested in my teenage years as well, because I think I've talked before, while it may have been very inappropriate, my 5th grade year, there was a touring Anne Frank exhibit that came through Fort Wayne, and my World War II veteran GI Bill 5th grade teacher thought it would be a good idea to take a group of 5th graders to a very graphic Holocaust exhibit. And it did spark my interest, and I think made me a little, because of my sensitivity of being a gay, it struck a chord with me. And being half Jewish and knowing that my family somewhere along the line down there is is affected by that. But I started reading books like In the Mouth of the Wolf, which was about the Polish ghettos and the Polish, which was what Majdanek was, a Polish concentration camp. Because I did a big deep dive on the camp that he mentioned. And
yes, he does mention Majdanek, Majdanek.
Don't try to pronounce Polish; you'll hurt yourself.
Yeah, and it's called that because it was located in Majden. So Majdanek is like Little Majden, and that's outside the city of Lublin in Poland. And interesting, he says that the reports are that he lost his brother June 18th of 1944. The camp was captured and closed down on July 22nd that same year.
Wow, that was interesting. It feels like they researched the Holocaust stuff. You know what I mean? We're not going to research the Palace Hotel stuff or fitted sheets, but they did their work on the Holocaust stuff. So God love them for that.
Yeah, I think there might have been a Jewish person or two in the writer's room. Can't say for sure. Might have been. But did you finish your story, Matthew? I'm sorry. As far as, did it affect your family? What did your mother's side of the family?
No, never discussed.
Never.
We were in Indiana, so even the whole Jewish thing was hardly ever, never discussed. So I had to do some digging to find out, like, well, like my grandma used to say, you shake anybody's family tree, a Jewish woman will fall out of it.
Has either of you been to a concentration camp?
No.
No, I've never been to Germany. I've never done a tour of Auschwitz or anything like that. I don't know. I'm afraid. I'm a little scared of the fields.
I will tell you, I've been to Auschwitz. My college chorus did a concert tour of Soviet Union, Poland, Estonia in 1990. So there's a museum there at the camp, and they have tours and tour guides who speak different languages, and they take you through, and they have the rooms with, the big plate glass window, the rooms with just the mountain of wallets, and the room with the pile of glasses, the children's toys. And it was for a joyous singing music college students concert tour. It was quite the gut punch, that's for sure. But I'm so glad we did it. I'm so glad we went. We walked through the gas chambers. We saw the ovens. And you're like, 6 million lost. 6 million. And
what's interesting, David, you say you went to Auschwitz. Auschwitz itself was mostly destroyed by the time that it was liberated, because they knew the Allies were coming. Majdanek did not get, they did not have time to destroy everything. It is the most complete labor camp that still exists, because they didn't have time to destroy all the evidence, and they didn't have time to destroy the gas chambers. I've never been to one, and I know this sounds silly. I know it sounds ridiculous, but in the documentaries that I've seen, I experience flashbacks, and I don't know what side I was on, but when I've seen video of Auschwitz, I know where things are. Wow. I can't explain it. I don't know, but like there was a specific documentary I remember watching where the camera was moving through Auschwitz, and computer graphics were rebuilding the things that, like, oh, here's a plot, but this used to be a building, and you would see the thing rebuild itself with a computer generated building. And I remember as the camera turned the corner, I was like, and that's the way to the gas chambers. Like I can't explain it. It was so weird. Somewhere in me has been there before. It was familiar to me.
Wow.
I know that sounds weird and stupid, and I can't explain it better.
That is not stupid, not at all. That's the thing.
It's your experience.
And that's it. And some people who are like, regardless of whether you believe in, multiple lives, or, Shirley MacLaine woo-woo stuff, that could just be, they say everything is vibrations. That could just be vibrations of trauma from your family, from your ancestors. And that's, a little goosebumpy for me. That's
November 3rd, 1943, 18,000 Jews were killed in one day at Majdanek, and that's the largest single-day massacre of the entire Holocaust. That particular camp that he mentioned is responsible, was operating for 34 months. 79,000 people were murdered there. 59,000 of them were Polish Jews.
In 43?
In 43. In the 34 months that it was open. And I just can't wrap my head around that.
It's tough.
True.
And Matthew, I know you're half Jewish, but I think probably the second largest group was homosexuals, and then the Romani or Gypsies, and then political dissidents. I think it wound up being around 13 million total, right?
And don't get me started on the American Liberating Allied Forces, because while the Jews were liberated and released, the gays were left there. The gays were left in the concentration camps.
I did not know that. Wow.
I didn't.
But I'll tell you, the Auschwitz presentation was very good in that they would say the unimaginable atrocities that took place here, this and that. Like, there was that type of language throughout it. It wasn't an improv actor from Orlando going, "Hey, how you doing today?" I mean, it was, thankfully it was reverent and had appropriate commentary and perspective. But there was, I believe, a film that was shown. I don't trust my memory anymore. If not, there is a documentary I watched. I thought it might have been there, where they show a film. And the point where I had to look away, the point where I couldn't, was they were using basically a plow to move a pile of bodies.
Yeah.
That were just flailed, like it looked like a pile of rag dolls.
Yeah.
And that's
showing that video to fifth graders.
Oh, Jesus
Fort
Christ.
Wayne, yeah. It'll mess with their head.
And things you can't get from the video would be like the smells, the burning flesh smells, the ash coming out, and the feeling of you're wearing the ash of dead people, those walking around. It's just, the Holocaust is almost incomprehensible. It's just so hard to wrap your heads around. It has to be remembered, and it has to be treated with the kid gloves that silly old facts of life treated it with. God love them.
Yeah, it probably would have been inappropriate for him to be talking about walking down the hallway or how he escaped, and that's when all is said and done and the episode ends and the credits roll. I really personally was just like, that was it. That was the way to do it. Really. Yeah. And if you have questions, that if you're not old enough to understand, that's where you ask some questions. And
and they give Nehemiah Persof's character a story of hope, which is nice too. Yes. I don't want to get into the details of it, but there's a story of hope. And that was a nice way to treat it, I thought.
Yep, agreed. It was really well done, and yeah, thankfully we end on the good note, the dramatic note, and yeah.
He says he never met a baby that doesn't like matzo balls. The joke I wanted Blair to say was, "Ooh, matzo balls. What other part of the matzah do you eat?"
Oh, nice. There you go. That's your comedy. And the other thing is to keep the baby from crying, because the baby is probably hungry, whatever. At one point, he does sing, "It's up to you, New York, New York," and ends it with this Tevye like da 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 da. This fun little dance at the end that just is so charming and so sweet. And God bless him. And good for them. Good on them in the midst of a rocky season and even a rocky episode that they got it. And
You're alive, Nehemiah. If you're listening to this podcast, we love you. You did an amazing job.
You know he is listening.
Someone should put it in front of him. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Get
Brilliant.
this to Nehemiah, whoever is out there.
Yeah, someone out there must know Nehemiah. Come on. Get it to him. Let him listen to it. Okay, so after all this hilarity talking about concentration camps and all that other fun stuff, let's end on a lighter note.
Stephen, you were working at the Catskills at the time, weren't you? Because we always like to talk about the fact that we were watching Facts of Life when this was going on. What was Steve Purnick's TV show of the day in 1986? What was Steve Purnick like rushing home? What was appointment television for Steve Purnick?
Boy, I don't remember the exact years. 86. I was really into Saint Elsewhere. That was a show that I just loved in the 80s. It was one of my all-time favorites. Mm-hmm. As a matter of fact, when you were saying that, who was the guest star? I remember like James Coco winning for his when he was on Saint Elsewhere, and Doris Roberts. So I was a big Saint Elsewhere guy. I think I was Star Trek Next Gen might have been a little later. Quantum Leap. 30-something. I was a big 30-something guy in the 80s too. I loved Zwick and Hershkovitz. I thought they were great.
Which is interesting because you weren't 30-something in the 80s.
No, I was still 20-something in the 80s. I was 20-something watching 30-something, but I always thought it was so moving and wonderful. And I remember guest spots on there too. Alan King. I don't know if he won, but he should have. He was just amazing. So yeah, there were still a lot of old Jews on television in the 80s.
Well, thank you, Steve, for doing this again. Thank you for being our touchstone to this important history that should not be forgotten. And even the Facts of Life had the wherewithal to know and understand that, huh?
You know, I was going to make the joke. Yeah, thanks for having me watch a Holocaust episode. But sincerely, thank you for having me watch that Holocaust episode. Actually, really, legitimately, thank you. It was totally worth the time and wound up being legitimately moving and legitimately really well done.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You just got to get through the setup, the openers and the bad Facts of Lifey stuff.
Yeah, the clunky, sweaty setup to it does pay off. It is a worthy journey to make. And again, if anyone listening, if you haven't watched it, this is one we really, really would love for you to see. It's really, really worth it.
You know what's also interesting? It was really Jewy, but wasn't about Natalie. So that's that.
You're right. It wasn't.
Isn't that amazing? As Jewy as this episode was, it wasn't Natalie Jewy.
Yeah. And yes. Oh, and remembering that in the last time you were here, the Molly Pecan episode, she was talking about being involved in one of the pogroms back in the First World War in the old country. So I'm just exposing you to all the happiness of the history of your people, aren't I?
Yay. What's next?
Well, on that note, I will
There's
say
one coming up where Tootie joins a white nationalist group. So maybe you'd like to join us for that one.
I'll be there.
Wow.
I'll be there with my yarmulke.
Yeah. Well, on that note, we will say, of course, first, you're welcome. And then thank you so much, Steve, for being a part of this. And I do hope we get you back for maybe just a run-of-the-mill non-Jewish episode. That could totally happen.
Why not? In the meantime, I know this will be airing well after, but happy Yom Kippur, everybody. And I hope you had an easy fast.
Yes. And same to you, sir. Happy Yom Kippur. Smooches and goodbye. Mwah!
All right. Bye, guys.
And there you have it. That was Steve Purnick. Thanks again to him and to Matthew for their input and insight on the subject matter of this show. It really is a lovely episode, thankfully, by the time you get to the end of it. So, as we said before, I really do recommend you watch it if you haven't. Next week, we're going to be watching Season 7, Episode 19, called Atlantic City. You can watch it for free at dailymotion.com or on Pluto TV. I will post links in the show notes and on this episode's webpage. That's all for now. Thank you so much for listening to this week's show. And remember, the facts of life are all about you.
Let's Face the Facts was created, produced, written, hosted, and edited by the wonderful David Almeida. Our theme song was beautifully arranged and recorded by Ned Wilkinson. Please visit FaceTheFactsPod.com for supplemental photos and videos, links to social media, and ways that you can support the show. And don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. This is Matthew Arder saying tune in again next week for another thrilling episode of Let's Face the Facts.